Austin Bush's father, John Bush, shared a story of a time he felt directly affected by racism. Coming from a biracial family, he had to handle tough situations at a young age. 1968 was an important year in American history, and its severity was felt countrywide. Director of Clemson's Pan-African Studies program, Abel Bartley, told us about the intensity of that year.
1968 would be the year Martin Luther King was killed, April 4th, 1968. And that whole year was a very hyper year for the United States. Martin Luther King is killed in April. It's the worst period of rioting in American history. 168 cities experienced rioting after Martin Luther King died.
John Bush recounted his memory of that fateful day as a child.
I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time. I was living in, of course, the downtown inner city, and the city just went crazy. I mean, they were rioting, they were looting.
Even at a young age, the events of that day had an impact on his life, and he felt racial discrimination.
I was in school when the news broke, and I went to a predominantly black school. And being light-skinned, a lot of the kids just thought I was white. And so, of course, they were like mad and angry. Now, this is third or fourth grade, and they basically chased me home. I was able to get into the school grounds. There was a little space between a fence and a concrete wall, and I was able to slide through that wall before anybody got me to start beating on me. And then, of course, I made it home.
Professor Bartley explained the countrywide impact of Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, which emphasized the high tensions between blacks and whites, and why John felt threatened in his own school.
The assassination of Martin Luther King, which for a lot of African Americans symbolized, this guy who stood for peace, stood for justice, stood for righteousness, he's murdered. And so for a lot of African Americans, it means that America's commitment to justice is now in question. So African Americans began to violently protest the fact that they're still being locked out of society. And so when you look at 1968, that's what was going on.
The year 1968 was a difficult time in America due to the amounts of racial tension and racism. Thank you, Mr. Bush, for telling us your story. With Clemson News Now, I'm Sophie Robinson at Clemson University.